All right, so we're going to keep working with the quadratic formula, but the ones that we do today aren't going to come out so pretty. They won't be perfect squares underneath the square root. You'll have to simplify the radicals, so it's going to be a little more challenging today. All right, so we're going to go to the back. And I'm going to kind of skip around. So I think yesterday I just did the evens and you guys did the odds. Today we're going to kind of go back and forth. But before we do it, let's go ahead and write down the quadratic formula at the top of the page. Do you guys remember it? Remember the song? The quadratic formula. The song, x equals the opposite b plus or minus square root of good. Divided by 2a. Now you have to sing it tomorrow. Just sing it. Just put a little bit of tune to what you said. It'll be fine. All right. And then, like I said, today it's not going to be so nice where it's just nice little perfect squares. So we're going to have to simplify radicals. But we've been doing that feels like almost every day for 2 weeks, maybe not that long. So I'm just going to real quick write down some perfect squares at the top of this page. All right. I might not need them to go that far. I just went ahead and went all the way to 15 squared. Okay, the second one's supposed to be 96. Thank you. All right, so just like yesterday, the first thing we need to do is get everything on one side so we can figure out what A, B, and C are. So I'm going to do number 8. So I'm going to move over the 8x and move over the 1. Right. And also, just like yesterday, we could do it with it this way, but it's easier if that first number is positive instead of negative. So I'm going to go through and change all the signs so that the A is going to be positive. All right. And so A is going to be the coefficient of x squared, B the coefficient of x, and then C is going to be your constant. All right. And now we're ready to plug those into the quadratic formula. Oh, thank you. What's wrong with me today? There we go. Okay, so now we're going to put this into the quadratic formula. So x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. All right. And then, just like yesterday, we're going to type what's under the square root in. We're not going to type the square root in. So we would just do 8 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 18. And you should get 208. So 208 is not in our list, but there is a couple of squares that divide evenly into 208. So we want to find the largest. And so you would kind of start towards the middle, start checking. The one that ends up dividing evenly is 16. So 208 is 16 times 13. It probably would take a while to get to that point. Right? And then we can take the square root of 16 is just 4. All right. So I just changed my square root of 16 to 4. We're not quite finished. So what I want you guys to know is that reducing the fractions is the very last step. So reduce fractions on the last step. Now, people do this wrong a lot. People in my pre-calculus class do this wrong a lot. They start reducing too early. And so one thing to kind of help you remember when to reduce is you're going to draw a heart. All right. So at this point, there's 3 numbers that are outside of the square root. So what you're going to do is draw a heart around them. It's kind of like a heart. And if you look at those numbers, all 3 of them, see if there is something that you can divide them all by, something that goes into all 3 numbers evenly. There is something else, though. No? 4. So we can reduce all of those by 4. So we would divide 8 by 4, and we would get negative 2. We would divide 4 by 4, and we would get 1. I don't really have to write 1 square root of 13. It wouldn't be wrong if you did, but it's just going to be the square root of 13. Do you guys think I need to write the 1 in the denominator? No. So if 1 is the only thing on the bottom, you don't have to write it. So this is the final answer. So there's less that your calculator will do for you today. There's more little things you have to do on your own. How'd you get -2? -8 divided by 4. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Let's look at 9. All right. Same first step. We're going to get everything on one side by subtracting the 4. All right, and then I don't want this -8 first. I want +8. So I would go through and I would change all the signs. All right, so you guys write down what A, B, and C are, please. This one is a little bit tricky. All right, so A has to be what's in front of x squared. 8, good. And B has to be what's in front of x. 0. So if there's not an x term, that is 0, B is 0. And then the constant, the number without an x, is c. Okay, so x equals the opposite of b. The opposite of 0 is still 0. 0 doesn't have a sign, positive or negative, it's neutral. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Right. Now I don't have to keep writing that 0, so this is just going to be plus or minus. And then 0 squared minus 4 times 8 times 3 is negative 96. Now, this didn't happen yesterday because all the ones yesterday were just nice little pretty numbers. But because there's a negative under the square root, what am I going to have in my answer? An I. Okay. And then I want to find a square that goes evenly into 96. 16, good. It's going to be 16 times 6. Okay, so we'll take the square root of 16. It's going to be 4. So we write that as 4i squared root of 6 over 16. Okay. Now this time I don't have to draw a heart because there's not a number in front of the plus or minus. But I am just looking at the numbers outside of the square root. Can you reduce those both by something? 4, right? 2 and 4, but we won't go bigger. So this is just going to be 4 divided by 4 is 1. So 1i, or just I, squared root of 6. And then the 16 is going to be 4. Okay, we're going to do one more, number 12. All right, so same beginning. We're going to get everything on one side by subtracting the 4x and subtracting the 5. All right, then we can figure out A, B, and C. Now this time the 5 was a positive, so we don't have to worry about changing the signs. We just leave it exactly like it is. All right, x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Okay, and then when you do negative 4 with the square on the outside, minus 4 times 5 times 4, you should get negative 64. Right, what is the square root of negative 64? 8. There's something else. I. So because it's a negative 64, it's going to be 8i. All right, and then we're going to draw the heart. And 2 divides into all of those. So we'll just go through. The and divide each number in the heart by 2. And that's the final answer. All right. So what questions do you guys have about the quadratic formula? Okay. Well, your assignment today is to finish this note sheet. So yesterday you did 1, 3, and 5. Today you're going to do 7, 10, and 11. And then on the other worksheet, you're basically just going to finish the front. So 1, 3, 5, and 6. We are not going to do the back. So if you want to mark out the back of Unit 4, Homework 8 worksheet, if you just want to mark out the back, you can. We are not doing that. Okay. And then here I have the answers from yesterday. So day 1 answers. And I have the answers for your assignment today. And I'll leave that up there for you guys.